Hello. Hola. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated every year to recognize the achievements and contributions of Hispanic American champions who have inspired others to achieve success. Latinos are connected like thousands of strands through their heritage. Individually and collectively, they strengthen the fabric of this nation, bringing color, vibrancy, passion, and flavor to their communities and beyond. Understanding the impact of this population on American culture, AARP wants to ensure that they continue to weave prosperous futures filled with salud, dinero, y amor, health, wealth, and self through its programs and offerings. AARP is proud to celebrate the incredible influence of Latinos on American heritage through their vibrancy, passion, talent, and culture. Today's conversation is about the power and influence of the Hispanic Latino community on creating a more livable society. And so we're pleased to have join us today Ivonne Fernandez. And Yvonne is the AARP Florida Associate State Director of Advocacy, and she'll be providing insight into AARP's work on engaging with the Hispanic Latino population in Florida and across the country. Yvonne, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And thank you for celebrating something that is really meaningful, not just in United States, but around the world, really. I said that everywhere you go, you will find cafe con leche, coffee with milk or cafe latte. So when you talk about flavor, it's for sure including the Hispanic flavor. Thank you for celebrating. Thank you, Virgin Island, for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being with us. And again, just to be very clear for audience, you are one of our AARP colleagues. You are my colleague working in the Florida State Office of AARP. And so every once in a while, we bring on one of our national colleagues from another state or from our national headquarters to share with us on conversations with AARP. So thank you for being with us today, Yvonne.
No,
And
thank you.
and so, if you will, first of all, tell us which country are you from originally, and the short version of what brought you to the United States. I'm sure it's a very long, interesting story of what brought you to the United States, but if you will, give us the condensed version of that.
Uh, well, I would say that I was born in Bogota, Colombia, and I came to this country, as I like to say, well done. I was an adult, 38 years old when I came to the country, and I came here because love. I really was working with an international pharmaceutical company. My background is microbiologist, so I was working with them, and by by the reason of work, I came to United States and I met my husband and I stood here. So it was a short version, as you said. They had a lot of up and downs. Like everybody that is an immigrant knows that there's no straight line and it is not easy for anyone to take this route, but it had been worth it, and very blessed to be working in ARP, who at the end of the day had been my only experience of work here in the United States.
Oh, no kidding. So this is your first job. AARP is your first job in the United States.
Well, and at the beginning when I came, I started working with my husband in a business that he had. But once my son was born, 5 years living here in the country, I took an opportunity to work as a temporary staff in Florida, AARP Florida, and I got in love of this organization. So you mentioned, you said a word, passion, and I think that that's what we find here in an organization like AARP for everything that we do. And I got in love, and I stood here 15 years ago was my first day in ARP. Will be in 2 weeks. I will complete my 15 years here.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, I always say that AARP is a special organization, being a
Very
social
much.
mission
Mhm.
organization and the nation's largest nonprofit. And and the our constituency, if I may use that term, the 50 plus population, which can tend to be, especially in the later years, a more vulnerable population. And so we do very special work at AARP. And I think that AARP has a group of very special employees. You know,
Yes,
we all really work from our heart, del
absolutely.
corazón, right? I mean, it's like really from the heart, del alma. And and so, you know, it's no coincidence that any of us ends up working for AARP. I think that that is almost like a divine arrangement kind of thing that we end up
Yes,
here working in this wonderful
it
company.
is true.
So,
It
yeah,
is true. It's a calling. It's a calling. I think that, as you mentioned, it's 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 the opportunity to start the journey that transform everybody's life that is aging, and aging after 50, because everybody's aging. I mean, once you are born, you start aging, you like it or you're not. But
right.
there is a special season in our life when you start walking over the 50 and the 60s and the 70s, and be able to walk with others and building upon the fundament of health, financial security, connectivity, uh, all that AARP does to create this opportunity to complete your journey in life, fulfilling your dreams, and being living a life with purpose. I think that is fascinating because
Yes.
not everybody has the opportunity to do it as we do in AARP.
Exactly. Absolutely, absolutely. And so share with us a little bit about your journey as a Latina within AARP and your ability to reach other Latinos like yourself.
You know, Troy, that I was when I got the invitation from your office to do this interview, I was thinking about this particular journey in how a person like me, that I was trained to work in the pharmaceutical arena with microbiology, that's my background, how did I end doing this? And I think that the connection to my career in ARP was to come from, to be raised and born in a country where aging, it's not embraced like ARP is had been leading for 60 years in the United States. So to be able to land in ARP, the day that I came for the first time to my job in ARP, I didn't know what ARP was. I thought, like many other Latinos, that was an insurance. And it was not. When I found out that this is the voice of people that if 50 plus, that is still having dream like at 20 years old, like 30 years old, that it is navigating a system that it is not very familiar for many of us, like
Mhm.
me, that are immigrants. I found a place where I could relate to the needs and wants of the community that I represented. So I came in ARP when our organization was changing our opportunity to integrate other cultures. Uh, Although always had been very sensitive to community ARP since our founder, Dr. Andrews, it was never so clear until I would say 20 years ago that we had to expand and stretch our ability to embrace community that don't speak like we do, that don't sound like we do, that don't look like we do, and they have a different set of values, but it's still part of the community. And that's when I came here. So have you heard that you have to be in the right place in the right time, but
Absolutely.
also be the right person? So I have been always a communicator in language in Spanish. That was my career. I was an educator on the medical field. Therefore, when I came here, I was one of the few staff that were fully trained to speak publicly in Spanish. And that was the reason why I started getting deeper in all the topics that are so important for the community that ARP produce. the research, the resources, the education. So I start being, this connection with the communities. So it was fascinating because there was no guidance in a book. So I
Right.
kind of start writing and going through this path with the knowledge that I have from being a Latina, from the heritage that I brought with me from aging in a community that was not United States, and putting together with all the opportunities that ARP has to enhance that. So it was fascinating. That was the reason how I started. Now we are much more bold and organized and structured to address and serve other communities. But by then, it was kind of the opportunity that anything and everything that came to your mind as an idea, you had the opportunity to start it and to try it. A lot of course, disappointments, because not always you thought uh, in something that was effective. But I think that that was a great opportunity to live fully my Hispanity in a community like ARP that was eager to learn and to improve our relationship, to be the bridge.
Yes, and earlier you mentioned a little bit about the shifting within AARP and becoming more embracing of the Latino community. And as you may know, Yvonne, now we have a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council in
Mhm.
AARP, and I'm honored to serve on that council, one of the four in total from state offices around the
Amazing.
country, the four of us from different state offices on that council. And now we have within AARP a whole office of diversity, equity, and inclusion with its own executive vice president, senior vice president, everything. And so AARP, while it has always been very inclusive, is now really focusing even more on being diverse and inclusive. And it's a wonderful experience and an honor again for me to be part of that kind of council. So tell us a little bit, now that you've been at AARP for 15 years. I've only been here for 5, so I'm still a new kid on the block compared to you. In 15 years, how have you seen that shifting toward AARP being much more diverse and inclusive?
I think that we have been always a pioneer. The story of ARP, it is the story of a pioneer, that our founder. And I think that we are still very fair to our roots, because it's something that the world is embracing and trying to figure out how to get there. And ARP is already at the age to start deploying all the new changes, embracing and growing better, because we are recognizing our differences. Um, Through the years, and that review that I shared with you, I was doing toward this conversation, I was thinking the different projects that we maneuvered since 15 years, trying to find how can we implement this. And I remember going to trainings of, they call them the melting pot, and that was really a theory of how to include, how be more diverse and more include. So let's blend it everybody, and we do a big juice for everybody. And it was generally honest, and but it was not the right way. But we went through that, we navigate that, no learning that was a completely different approach. So I think that what ARP is doing now is really recognizing differences and honoring differences, to be able to address the community that we serve, know the organization that we are, regardless what is the demographic on the staff or our volunteers, really thinking the people that we serve. And that's the golden coin that is now navigating every single program and project on ARP, is towards who are we serving. And that's what I think that could explain all this transition.
Exactly. Who are we serving? And also, as we were discussing just before this program, as AARP always says, what we do for all, right? We're serving everybody, and yet recognizing the different cultures, the different backgrounds, the different languages, et cetera. And how do we reach everybody? And how do we positively impact everybody's life,
Yeah,
regardless of where they're from? And so it's wonderful that we can have this kind of diversity and inclusion within AARP. To not only I, as an Afro Caribbean man, and you, as a Latina woman, to feel welcomed in the workplace. And AARP
mhm,
does a fantastic job with that already, thankfully.
mhm.
But also to know that our work then can impact our own people as well as all others, Asian and Pacific Islanders, etc. I mean, it just goes on and on. The Muslim population, the Hindu population, right? We're about everybody at AARP.
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I think that the history, I love the history of ARP because it's very unusual. The women that one day, 60 years ago, took the lead and after 40 times to say no, 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 with the first project that she put together for the group of people that she called association. And after all those times, I always ask myself, how could be her mind when there was the answer number 23 to the same request, and she kept going for the 30 and the 32, and until someone say, agree, okay, let's do it. So it shows what we are. I mean, like organization, we have this heart of serving. And I'm saying this because sometimes the community that we serve don't feel that we represent them in everything, but we are growing, and we are, as a society, we are growing, but ARP is trying always to go in front, opening the path for the ones who are coming behind. So definitely we are an organization that had the legacy but also had the vision of the future, and that involved including people that probably we didn't contemplate on at the beginning, but that comes on the path as we go.
well said, very well said. And the Hispanic population continues to grow within the United States, in every state and in the territories as well. So tell us, as the Associate State Director of Advocacy in the Florida State Office, how has AARP, both nationally and in particular, as you can focus on your office in Florida, how has AARP positioned itself as an advocate on issues and matters of concern to Hispanics, Latinos?
Well, I think that as they we don't just move from being a small multicultural group to be one. I think that is the largest minority in the United States, and at the same time, we're getting old as part of the fabric of this organization, of this country. Therefore, our needs, our wants, are kind of reaching to the same level of needs and wants of the community that were here before the Hispanic community came. ARP has been the voice that take care of basic columns that allowed a human being to live to the fullness, and that has all to do with the way that the laws are developed in the country, has all to do with protecting the way that we can have our health, that we can preserve our financial stability, the way that we live in a community that is sensitive to the differences of an elder in the community, and of course the caregiving, the long-term care, the fact that especially in the Hispanic community we want to age in our home.
Mhm.
So to keep all the resources available for a person that as age, they want to stay at home, surrounded by the loved ones. It takes the whole community and the legislators and the people that have the responsibility to represent us when all these resources are being put in place. So ARP is the voice that defend, that take care of that. And right now in Florida, where I do my work as an advocacy, it is amazing to see that 36% of the legislators in Tallahassee are Hispanic Latino.
Oh, wow.
That if we see, for example, we are putting together for tomorrow a teletown hall with the Congresswoman Salazar. 72% of her constituents are Hispanic.
Wow.
And that really shows how much impact we have on the legislation. One of the states that had more, first of all, it's just two states had a senator, an Hispanic senator. Florida is one of them. The Congress representative and the Congress also are very numerous in Florida because we participate, because they represent a lot of Hispanic in age districts. So I think that makes our work in advocacy very valuable when we can go and help to promote and prevent and produce the changes, the needs, and the wants that the community is on need in every area. In Florida, I'm talking about Florida just because it's where I work.
Right. And that's amazing, those statistics that you presented, the great number of Hispanics in your state council and so forth, and all the constituents, the great number. I mean, when I go to Miami, which is very often, I feel like I'm in little Cuba, right? Like
Yeah,
little
it
Havana.
is.
It's probably in a way almost bigger than Havana because I think there are probably more Cubans in Miami than in Havana, Cuba now at this point.
Yes,
And
and you know, Troy, that is true. Miami is the city that had more Hispanic than any other place in the country.
yes,
So it's Spanish, Espanol. It's mandatory kind of here. No, I'm not saying mandatory legally, but it is amazing. You cannot communicate properly here if you don't speak Spanish. It's incredible. Sometimes I joke saying, "Wow, these people don't know that we are living in the United States," because it really feels like any city in Korea and or in South America.
exactly. Exactly. Now, faith plays a major role in Hispanic Latino culture. So tell us, how has your role as a minister? I didn't realize that before this interview, actually. I know I'd seen you on some of your Facebook lives sharing the word of God with others, and it's always been very inspirational. I've stopped and listened to you many times. But tell us how your role as a minister in the intermissions worldwide help to further your work as a community leader and advocate for the Hispanic community.
Do you remember when we start talking? Maybe it was out of camera. Now I don't know that we talk about calling because
Hmm.
beside the career or your profession, there is something that is higher, that is a calling. And I think that
Yes.
when you are responding to a calling, kind of everything that comes in your path overlaps, isn't it? So when I married my husband, he had been a minister for 30 something years. So I joined him in the work that he does. He at the moment he is the chaplain for the police department and the city that we live, that is Coral Springs. And when I met him, I joined his journey of faith, and I didn't know that then with AARP, I am being the connector between all the resources for caregiving, for livable communities, for health. That AARP, as we come back to the point of multicultural and representing the community that we serve, included leaders from the faith-based community that are, as you say very well, our community is very hierarchical. Hierarchical. It's not because we like to receive orders. is because we like to follow people that we respect in the in that
Hierarchy.
order.
Yes.
You know, we so it was a great channel to deploy every resource to, for example, the caregiving projects. It is something that it is not considered like a job for the Hispanic community. Caring for the loved ones is part of the deal. You are a daughter,
Mhm.
you are a wife. When you go to a meeting and you say, please, if you are a caregiver, raise your hand. No one raised their hand. But if you say you are a daughter that take care of the mom, everybody raise the hand, because it's a word that we do not recognize like an additional role. It is part of being a loved one for a person that is in need. And that is very tied up to faith, to be obedient with that. So that really created an opportunity to explain to a community that was very unaware of AARP, of what we really do. And that was exactly what I started doing it 6 or 7 years ago, given my relationship with the faith-based community through my personal life. So kind of overlap. It was one thing with another, and that has been now part of the the way that we communicate with Hispanic here.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so we're almost out of time. It's amazing how the time has flown, but I just wanted to tell all of our viewers, all of our listeners, if you're listening on radio or viewing on television or Facebook or YouTube, to please go to our AARP website, aarp.org. It's an incredible website full of lots and lots of information. Of course, everybody wants to know about member benefits. You can find all of that at aarp.org, but you can find out so much more about our advocacy and our community outreach all across the nation. We are the largest advocacy organization in the United States, and the most influential advocacy organization in the United States, from Capitol Hill to every state and municipality across the country. As you've been hearing today about some of our work in Florida with our guest, Ivonne Fernandez, the Associate State Director of Advocacy in Florida for AARP. And also locally, you can visit the AARP Florida Facebook page if you are visiting Florida or living there. You can also visit our AARP Virgin Islands Facebook page, AARP Islas Vírgenes in Spanish Facebook page as well, and gain so much more information. So, Yvonne, any uh, final words or thoughts in our last few seconds here?
Well, I just want to add to the point of contact. We have Café con Leche con AARP. It's a very flavory place in the Facebook. So also you can find information in or the activities in Miami if you have family or if you happen to live here. So no, thank you, Troy. They had been really a blessing to be here with you, and thank you for honoring the Hispanic community through this program.
Great. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Have a great day.
You too.